Before we end, I want to talk about your reasons for exiting the field. You did say that you are now you're a real estate professional, so you're no longer in the K-12 space.
Right.
And I do want to talk about it. I think it's important that we talk about it. You left a while ago, but I am seeing an increase of Black talent leaving the classroom and leaving the K-12 space overall. And I want to address why that's happening, or why you think that's happening, and what's your personal reasons why you left.
All right, so I mean, in terms of why I left first, maybe I touch on a bit about my experience in education. Again, so my experiences led me to get into education. I wanted to be that black male that a lot of the young men and women could look to in terms of guidance and, you know, be there for them, not just from an educational standpoint in terms of books are concerned, but life as well, and let them learn from my experiences. And funnily enough, Trish, the last thing that made me want to leave were my students. Like, that was the primary reason why I stayed. At the time, the school that I was teaching in, a lot of people would probably have something negative to say about the student body in terms of behavior and the area that the school was located in. I never had any problems with either one of those. From day one, when I went and had my orientation, they told me, hey, you want to stay away from this area, and this area. And I said, okay. I said, well, where do all the students live? Oh, this area, this area, this area.
The same areas you were being told to stay away from.
In my mind, I'm like, well, if the school is supposed to be, you know, one of the centers of the community, then shouldn't we be embracing the areas and be a part of the community? I mean, it was such a vital part. So I ignored that. I mean, I'd be up and down what was Simpson Road at the time, and so on and so forth, because that's where the kids live. And, you know, I didn't feel any, you have to embrace and become a part of that community. If you're going to teach and be an educator in the community, it's my opinion that you have to embrace that community as a whole, because education is not just in the classroom, it's overall. So my students and I would like to think that we had a great connection. Yes, they're 14 to 19 at the time, so things are going to happen, but we always addressed it. We always had it under control. So nothing crazy like what people were telling me to expect, right, in terms of behavior. The thing that hurt me the most when it came to my experience in education is I saw so much talent. I saw so much undiscovered or unearthed talent in my students. Their view of the world, to no fault of their own, was very limited. So if you were to ask the young men what they wanted to be, football, basketball, rap, were the primary answers that you get. You ask the young ladies, hairstylists, was I think the one that came up the most. You know, but there's so
and nothing wrong with these professions.
Nothing at all.
But just giving them access to
nothing wrong with those professions
their
at
full
all.
Capabilities and all the things that they have available to them.
And understanding that the reality of life, because if a student is 5'2", telling you that he aspires to be in the NBA, but you're 14 and undiscovered at this point in time, the odds are you're probably not going to make it to the NBA. We hope that you do. But you have to have something else. And so it was about trying to understand what their skills were, what their talents were, and trying to nurture that as best as you could in the limited time that you spend with them. And then, you know, so that hurt me the most, because I felt like as a school, as a community, we weren't exposing them to all of the opportunities that were out there. You might have a student that excels at math, but they have no idea that their industry is built around people that have a skill set that are good in mathematics, right? You might have a student that some teachers might label as disruptive, but when you hear them in class and the way that they can just take one thing and they can run with it, and they can talk and talk and talk, that's a skill. So how do we nurture that? Instead of punishing them, how do we nurture that? So for me, I kind of, what turned me off overall was, I hate to put it this way, but this is the most honest I can be. I ended up, as a teacher, feeling like an overseer on a plantation.
Oh, wow.
In the sense that I'm really just there to keep everybody in line, get my little check, and cut. As long as the numbers look good at the end of the day.
What numbers are you referring?
When I say numbers, so test scores. As long as the test scores look good and they could, you know, whether it's the administration or the district could prop themselves up on these test scores, cool.
So you didn't feel like you were making meaningful change?
Didn't feel like there was a meaningful change, and I didn't feel like there was room to allow us to make a meaningful change. And I brought this to the attention of administration many times. You and I both know. We come from cultures. You could argue it's in our blood. Very rebellious. Very rebellious.
Rebellious spirit.
So you know, a man can't tell me nothing. You know, they can't tell me. But when we're coming back from summer, and some of your young ladies, some of the young girls are coming back pregnant, but yet there's no talk or discussion of sex education or the realities of being a teenage mother, a young mother, the repercussions. when some of our young men are getting locked up, but yet there's no activity or there's no movement towards helping them find a way to navigate around, whether it's gang activity or drugs or whatever the case, then I feel like we're ignoring the problems that exist. Atlanta Public Schools covers both the north and south side of town, but there are different challenges on either side of town. And so this is how it goes back to my experience. In my experience, those teachers were dealing with kids that are coming from different cultures or being raised in different cultures, primarily by women. So we have our own challenges that are unique and different to what kids maybe in certain parts of Manhattan or other parts of Brooklyn are going through. So address that. If we're coming in and I have anger issues, it's not because I'm just inherently an angry person. I'm coming because, you know, I really want to understand why my father is not there. Or why, you know, been however long since I've talked to him. Or seeing my mother struggling, I don't know how to internalize that. Seeing my mother cry because, you know, money is a problem or the stress is hard to deal with. So when I'm coming and I'm angry, I'm snapping at the smallest thing. It's because there's something else going on, but no one has taken the time to understand it. And see, that's the thing with education. As an educator, you have to, you know, we know educators are the most underpaid people on the face of the earth. You can make an argument them and like nurses, things of that nature, but educators are so undervalued and underpaid. So undervalued and underpaid. And for me, I had a student in particular that became homeless during the time, and I used to try and take him and his family food where they were and so on and so forth. At the time I'm 22, 23, but you feel it. You take that home with you. It's hard not to. Because
I had students that lived in a shelter.
You look at your student and you see the potential. And you see everything that they can give, and yet and still when you tell the administration, yo, we need to do something, or nothing. You know, what they want you to do now is pass this student. But the student's never been to my class. Or change the student's grade. But this student's reading on a 3rd grade reading level. This is 9th grade. Or calling me in the summertime. You need to do this so that the student can walk. They can graduate. They never did any assignments. Well, give them some work and grade it this to raise up their grade. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're pushing our kids out into society where they can't compete, where they can't become self-sufficient, where they can't become contributing members of society. So that goes back to why I say, now I'm an overseer on a plantation, because we're really not trying to help the kids. We're just trying to push them out. You can elevate into an administration role. You know, you are this person over here or whatever, and you can make more money for yourself and your family. What about the community? So what about your community?